All right, and we are live. So
Cool.
here we are once again, another week, another interview. Today, I have the pleasure to interview or to have a chat with Sebastian. Sebastian is creative director right now at CDPR and used to be animation director, head of animation, a man that has worn many hats, lots of experience, cool tattoos too, superstar of the game because you're featured in Cyberpunk as well, right?
Kind of.
So
Yeah.
it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure talking to you, Seb. I know you're like a really cool dude because we've been talking over Twitter, but
Yeah.
finally, pleasure to meet you.
Th- Thanks a lot, man. Thanks a lot for having me. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. And man, I don't know how you do it, but you managed to just continue drop so many cool interviews and animation feeds. That man, kudos and
Thank you.
respect.
Thank you. I mean, you know how it is, man. It's busy, but it's fun to actually share the knowledge. Like, I want to ask you in a little bit about your Promised Land program that
Oh
you
yeah.
have, right? Because I'm pretty sure you get the
Mm-hmm.
same kind of like pleasure out of it. But we'll talk in a little bit because you're also giving
Absolutely. Let's
a
talk
lot of
about that.
animation
Yeah.
knowledge.
Yeah.
But Seb, look, first of all, before we get started, I want to give a shout out to everybody watching right now. As always, guys, definitely make sure that you drop comments, ask questions for Seb and I to answer here live. We'll talk a little bit and then we'll get into your questions in a little bit. But for everybody that doesn't know, like Seb, how does this passion for animation start? And then you ended up being a creative director, which is like, what's the journey? How did he start it from a young age?
Oh man. Uh, okay. I try to sum it up in I don't know 5-10 minutes, yeah, but it's a
Sure.
long journey. It's a long
No
journey.
problem.
Um, Actually, it all started like I love RPG in general, right? First of
Mm,
all, this is RPG. I love RPG games, games in general since I remember. So we've been playing with folks, tabletop, pen and paper, and anything since I don't know 5 years old, 6 years old.
nice.
So that was my, I fall in love in games in general and movies. Uh, I really wanted to do something with art. It was like all kind of art. I was drawing. I was, I didn't even think about myself as an animator because the place that I come from, I'm from Poland, right? I'm from Krakow. There
Yeah.
wasn't even a school, anyone's school, right? That you would able to gain that knowledge, yeah.
Mm,
Um, but at some point, like life is tough sometimes. I was kind of forced to take some of my parents, for example, right? And we had to leave Poland and we started living here in England. Yeah, I moved
oh,
there.
in the
Yeah,
UK.
a
All
couple.
right.
Yeah, in the UK. I was living there. Actually, I was working at BMW. Man, I was creating a Mini Cooper in Oxford for a couple
Really?
years.
That's
Yes.
great. So not like service, like customer service, but actually what the design and all that stuff, or
No, man, assembly line, actually paint shop. You
assembly
know.
line. Wow, hard
Yeah,
work, man.
it was a hard work,
Yeah.
but man, I'm kind of built for winter, dude. So
Coming
I
from
was
Poland, right?
yeah, exactly. But at some point, I was pretty nitpicky. I wanted to have a night shift because there
Mm,
was just 3 days a week of work. So I was like, okay, if I'll be working there for 3 days, then I'll have 4 days that I'll be
mm,
able to study, right? So what I did actually, I bought, I don't know, 10 books from the Amazon, and
mm.
I started just studying from myself from these books. And I remember, there was a Jason Ryan, and I'm sure that the community knows this
Nice.
guy
Yeah.
pretty well. Respect and cheers, Jason, cheers
Yeah.
there. And then, I've started learning some tutorials of 3D, studying all these animation principles by myself, trying to make a portfolio.
Mm,
And I finally I created a super, I would say, newbie portfolio, but it was a 1 minute, and I kind of got a junior position back in Poland, you know.
Right.
So I was like, I set already my stuff in England. My left parents there, they were like fine, you know,
Right.
they had job, but etc. And I left back to Poland, you know, I get job there.
Mm.
It was a small, really small gaming company. They were doing a small game. It was just for animators. It was a funny situation because after a month they've made me a lead. You know, I
Hmm.
was like, but you know, it was a super small company. They were like,
Right.
hey, but we need someone that has at least an idea of the direction how we can develop and do not
Hmm.
waste time. So finally, I became a leader, but I spent there for a couple of months. Um, and you know, after a couple of years, like you know, fast forward a couple of years, like I think 2 or 3, I moved back to England.
Right.
I've actually started working, for example, at Gasto Games in Real Time UK. I was doing
Right.
their cinema, a little bit of the cinematics, but mostly games as an outsourced studio,
Hmm.
mostly for Disney and Microsoft. It was like Kinectimals, Disneyland Adventures, this kind of stuff. Um, and then you know when I was already working, I said, okay, I have some time and at least savings. I'll be able to spend this for I animate that time, yeah, to
Hmm.
just be able to really progress with the skills and you know get some connections, you know, have peers that be able to really feedback me on daily basis, you know, as we all know, feedback
Yeah.
and fresh eyes super important here, especially when it comes to animation. Yeah, I tends to get tired super quickly, right?
Yeah.
So then you know I've progressed with the course with the program. I made it, you know. I've learned tons of knowledge. You know, I was just simply. I remember, you know, it was like 2 years run when I was just working at real time and animating for school till 1, 2 a.m. in the morning, and it was
Start
like the
again.
cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It was for like 1 year and a half. Yeah, like this loop.
Yeah.
But you know, uh, I had to catch up, right?
Yeah.
That I was like just dedication, right? You know, after the program, after a couple of years spent in England again, I get back to Poland again, and I started
Wow.
working at a company called Flatish Image
Hmm.
with Tomasz Bagiński, who was once nominated for the Oscar for the short movie, and I've been mostly working there. Okay, sometimes I was animating some adverts, but mostly I was in the cinematic department making
Hmm.
cinematics. Yeah, and I remember I did like 2 cinematics for The Witcher, like for example, killing monsters. Yeah, and then the second one with Yennefer, anyone knows Witcher probably can recognize.
Yeah.
Um, and you know after the cinematics, you know, I was kind of trying like looking for change. I actually wanted to get back to games,
Hmm.
and it was a super cool coincidence because after my work for on the cinematics, CD Projekt Red simply contacted me directly saying, hey, we have a lead position, would you like to join? And I was like, yeah, hell yeah, you know.
And at this point,
I
you're already in Poland, right?
Yeah, I was already in
Right.
Poland. Yeah, I was already in
Yeah.
Warsaw. Both Platish and CD Projekt Red headquarters studio is both of the studios are in Warsaw, in
Okay.
Poland, right? So yeah, I moved to CD Projekt, and I spent, let's say, last 9 months of the Witcher 3 development.
Okay.
I mean the main game, because then we were working for 2 years for the expansion packs, right?
Right.
But I came mostly. I love Witcher. Yeah, you know, this
Yeah. It's
is you know,
beautiful.
I
Beautiful
really
game.
like it. Yeah, and I love books. You know, since I remember. Yeah, Sapkowski,
Yeah.
etc. You know, so it's like it is great storytelling. I love his dialogues and
Yeah.
just dark feel. You know,
Completely.
but I was huge fan of Cyberpunk. Yeah, because I remember we played for I don't know when we were kids. Like
Yeah.
as I started, I told you that I was playing a lot of pen and paper, right? So
Right.
we played for like 7 years in the row Cyberpunk pen and paper. Yeah,
Oh
I
wow! So
knew
you
this world.
actually
Yeah,
you were a fan, like a
yeah,
proper fan, because
yeah,
people
yeah,
didn't know about Cyberpunk until the game came
yeah,
out, or until like you guys started
yeah.
working on the game. So you were a fan of the actual like indie, like the niche, like that no one knows
Oh
about, right?
yeah, man. Oh yeah, man,
Yeah.
Mike Pondsmith, yeah,
Yeah.
the guy who actually made it.
Yeah.
Was like a god for us. Yeah,
Amazing. Yeah.
when when I met Mike for the first time, it was like you just man, like it is no, it's not gonna like it's like it was a dream come true. Yeah, like
Fanboy,
because
right?
when I was oh absolutely man,
Right.
yeah, totally. So for me, it was like. Uh, it was like dream come true, yeah, working on
Mm,
Cyberpunk, like it was just simply the
amazing.
best thing can happen, right?
Yeah.
So I joined Red for the leading animator position for Cyberpunk. But
Hmm.
before actually I started working on it, I was focusing more on mostly on the Witcher, yeah, helping Witcher,
Right.
and in the last run I was simply like also leading the gameplay animation team. At that point,
Yeah.
gameplay and cinematics at CD Projekt Red were split. Yeah,
Right.
like it was pretty small teams and split. So I
Hmm.
was mostly handling for the main game, the gameplay animation for the last 6 months. And then after releasing the main game, we've started merging. So I was more, let's say, doing both gameplay and cinematics. And
Right.
like in next 2 years, I haven't like we were like simply as soon as I got a promotion, yeah, like and
Mm.
this head of animation position was created.
Yeah.
Then it was all about merging, and creating the like filling the gaps, which was like
Right.
lack of proper rigging, lack of
Hmm.
mocap, and and also like like this whole animation team for Cyberpunk
Yeah.
was made out of 5 teams, which was gameplay animation, cinematic design, mocap, and
Yeah.
rigging. Yeah, 5 teams, like
Makes sense.
more than 50 people altogether. Yeah, 50,
Yeah.
55. Something like
Makes
that.
sense. Makes complete sense. So, but you basically came across that step of like unifying everybody in a seamless
Unifying,
way to make sure
yeah,
that
yeah,
that translates to game, right?
exactly, yeah, that
That's
was
cool.
it, yeah,
Amazing.
yeah,
Amazing.
I love
So,
it. Yeah.
so at that point you became director, animation
Hmm.
director, or was ahead of the
Yeah,
animation?
it was actually firstly it was animation director for the expansion packs of The Witcher,
Right.
but then like when kind of like me and not only right the CEO, the game director, we all realized that we need to make an independent, strong animation team that is,
Of
as I
course.
said, independent. So
Yeah.
because previously animation was pretty much dependent on character team. We're still, of course, we do. There's one goal, right? We talk
Hmm.
a lot, yeah. We cooperate and stuff,
Yeah.
but there is some independence like necessary in the process to make sure that you can deliver your goals. You know what I mean? Because
Completely.
finally, in the end of the day, nobody will make the animation better than
Yeah.
animator, right? Like,
Of course.
okay, they
Yeah.
can give you a feedback, but still, if you have an idea and a vision, then you can at least have some requests, or let's say you need
Yeah.
to hire sometimes. Yeah, you need to hire. You need to be this architect of the pipeline, architect of the team, to be
Completely.
able to really. They have to at some point trust you. Of course, in
Yeah.
the end of the process, they just simply check in if you
Yeah.
deliver. But generally, in my opinion, when it comes to animation, we
I
really
agree. I
we
couldn't
do.
agree
Yeah,
more. Yeah, and I think like most studios are going towards that route of actually kind of like getting cinematics, animation, rigging, and all that stuff together. I think
yeah.
as games evolve and people get to know more what is required of animation for games, it starts to become a
Mhm.
nucleus of like, is these things together? It's not separate.
Yeah,
It's together, right?
exactly. I remember, when the teams were split and smaller during The Witcher, we had pretty small and simple problems that I
Hmm.
think every single company I encountered had, which is, okay, you finish cinematics. What is the pose that you're finishing in? Because I have to match with my idol, right? It's
Yep,
a super regular thing. But when
100%.
it comes to Cyberpunk, when we find our let's cinematic design
Yeah,
was there was like almost it's not wasn't the same, but
yeah,
I would compare it a little bit to the God of War from Cory Barlog, right?
yeah,
There was no cuts at all
yeah.
in our game. there's no cuts for most of the games. Yeah, like sometimes, you know, we take the camera out of view. I mean, but we do not cut. We just take a control. That means that all the systems all the time blend with each other. Yeah.
Perfect. That's great.
You don't have a cinematic bubble that you can
Yeah.
hide. You can hide. You can cheat. Whatever. No, everything needs to like kind of blend seamlessly,
Yeah.
and that causes a lot of issues, right?
Completely. And here's something else that I found as well is that games should be led by gameplay, not knocking anybody in cinematics. But at the end of the day, what players do 90% of the time is play the game, right? So as animation gameplay, that should be the stuff that counts the most. And then cinematics get bolted on top of that, right? And sometimes when you have departments that are separated that way, sometimes they fight with each other because obviously, you know, the animation, the gameplay animation director wants this, and the cinematic and director wants this thing.
Exactly.
So I completely understand what you're saying.
Yeah, we had to at some point. I remember, you know, after I think dealing with first E3, we had so many problems that were, I would say, technical, but you know, most of the problems starts from the communication, right?
Exactly.
It is like, so at some point, you know, at the beginning, you are establishing the goals. Yeah, the goal needs to be common. The goal needs to be understandable by everyone, right, in the room. And then you just check. I'm not saying micromanage, but I'm saying you check, you paraphrase it. You make sure that everyone goes towards this goal. And when it comes to so many systems, in this case, like we had to merge that. We had to merge that to make sure that we have common backlog, common understanding of pipelines, one mock-up session that actually, you know, kind of like we had to do that. It was an evolution, but in the end of the day, like in comparison to The Witcher, you know, like in Cyberpunk, you finally have like over 64,000 animations, when, you know, in The Witcher you have 18,000, which is like, from just that perspective, this game is 4 times bigger, right? Just that perspective. And it's seamless, right? No bubbles, nothing. Yeah, like no small mirrors here and there, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like when Cyberpunk came along, the reason, like, I actually sent you a tweet to say awesome work on the animations and stuff, because I think what people, it's difficult to encapsulate how difficult it is, game making is, right? And especially when it's a game of that magnitude, especially when it's for the first time that a studio takes a game on of that magnitude, right? Because The Witcher and Cyberpunk seem like the same kind of game, open world, you can do everything. But the level of ambition on both games and the level of detail that you have to have in both games are very different, right? So the fact that you guys achieved so much within the first foray of Cyberpunk and managed to kind of like, you know, get it out on time and all these other things, obviously there must have been a lot of stress and a lot of work. It's an epic achievement, man. Like I think everybody in the games industry understood, but obviously it gets misconstrued sometimes by players that actually just compares just different games together and be like, oh, this game did it, but well, how comes? It's complicated, man.
Yeah, man, it was a crazy ride, and of course there are things that are super well. Some things we have a hiccup, but in the end of the day, I think we're super proud of what we achieved.
Yeah, you should be.
Yeah, and you know, like you said, and I completely agree with you a couple of minutes ago, that, you know, gameplay, you know, and it's important, and then cinematics needs to follow. In our case, actually, it's a little bit opposite, because we put so much on story that actually story in our case is always like we say in the studio that, you know, you say that gameplay is a king, right? But story is a queen. So queen actually is turning the neck, right? You know what I mean? And like in life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Most often. But you know, so it was like, even when we were thinking about the camera choice, I remember that for the long time we were thinking about TPP, right? But at some point we said, hey, as we're doing in our case, the antagonist is a city, right?
Mhm.
Yes, this is the biggest antagonist now. You cannot beat this. You cannot
That's
beat the
true.
antagonist in this game. It's a
That's a good
city,
point.
and
Yeah.
if it's a city, we want to really to the player needs to feel overwhelmed all the time. Yeah.
Hmm.
So actually, we've been thinking, what about FPP? Like, of course, there were many other reasons, like for example, shooting and stuff, right?
Yeah.
That is already industry standard when it comes to proper gameplay loop
Hmm.
with like check Battlefield, Call of Duty. You know, the quality
Yeah.
there is crazy, right?
Hmm.
When it comes to shooting, but in our case, that was the biggest like motivation. It was to really make it feel that you cannot play with that city. Like if you will fail, it will just simply eat you to the bone, swallow it. That's it.
And I
You
think you
know,
guys
that's why
did it.
FPP. Yeah? You look up and you see
Yeah.
you all the time. You anywhere you are, you feel overwhelmed, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Like I think, to me at least, when I play the game, the thing that actually the very first time that you actually get that sensation, obviously, is in the beginning when you see the city. Like it's overwhelming because there's so many things going on, which is
Yeah.
awesome. Like I was hype.
Mhm.
But then, when you actually pick that body from the bathtub and you have to
Mhm,
carry
mhm,
the body, and actually
mhm, mhm.
that stuff, if it was in third person, it would have been a completely different feeling than it
Yeah.
is on first person, because it is the difference between you seeing somebody carrying a body or
Yeah.
you yourself carrying the body, right? So
Exactly.
it's great.
Exactly. That's why, we call it like the most. We have like in a game we have like 5 tiers of cinematic scenes, let's say.
Mhm.
And this one, when you are motivated to kind of being anchored at some point. In this
Yeah,
case, you actually carry body, yeah?
yeah,
That and you have a seamless blending there. Yeah, no
mhm.
camera cuts and stuff.
That's
This
true.
is the moments when you really feel the immersion. Yeah, this is
Yeah,
the moment when you really feel that you are have to take care of this person,
mhm.
etc. Yeah, like you cannot stop,
Exactly.
like you cannot even pause the game. That was the goal,
Yeah,
just to not make you think about like going and for a tea at that point. Yeah, you have to follow
completely.
the story, you have to follow it, you have to help that person, and at some point you'll be able to go for a tea.
Yeah, exactly.
But on our terms, not your terms. You know what
Not
I
your
mean?
term. Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, completely. No, but Seb, look, I think given all the back and forth that you did between the UK and Poland, and how you actually found yourself in this position now as creative director, right? Like
Yeah.
something for the people out there watching. By the way, thanks everybody that is watching.
Thank
Um,
you, guys.
how do you, because you now are at a point that you've done the animation thing, and now as a
Hmm.
creative director, you're overseeing the creative decisions of a
Hmm.
game, right?
Yeah.
Like, to everybody out there that actually wants to be an animator, that wants to actually make it into games and have a career, and I get questions in my channel about like, do you have a future in games, and do you get well paid, and like, is
Hmm.
there places for me to go, can I be a lead, and that's about it? What do you say
Hmm.
to those people that actually kind of like have those
Hmm.
questions?
Oh, first of all, mm, one of the first lessons I got in my life, like personal lessons, I got this lesson that when you want to be an animator, you have to. Someone told me that, and it was a really bad thing. Like you have to pick the software. You have to pick the software. I was like, what software? Some people animate in Maya, some people animate in mobile, some people animate in 3ds Max. I was like, oh my god, I was biting my like nails,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So what do you think? What do you recommend? Man, in Poland, most of the studios using at that point, right? At that time,
Yeah,
most studios are using 3ds Max.
that's
Use
true.
this. I was
Yeah.
like, all right, yeah. I remember, I opened 3ds Max and I closed it. Right after 10 seconds, I was like,
With a little bar
yeah,
on the right.
yeah, exactly, man.
Yeah,
I was really, I shit my pants, right?
yeah.
Then I reopened it again. Then I started learning biped and quadruped and cut and all that stuff. And of
Mhm.
course, I spent a couple of years there. And then I realized that this is only pencil, this is the only pencil. It's not
Mhm.
more than that. Like,
Yeah,
especially when you're an animator, like I'm not a super technical dude. I mean, I cannot script, right? I do not
yeah,
that.
me too. Yeah.
I don't know C++, but it doesn't like matter. It's like, okay, you can learn, but what is the most important is to really understand what you really want from the
Hmm.
technical person. Is again communication. Like what you they will really ask you, especially nowadays. There
Hmm.
is no 1 month band positions open right
That's
now.
it.
There
Yeah.
are people that like specializes, like
Yeah.
because this is it, like quality over quantity,
Hmm.
right? Especially in triple A's.
Yeah.
And so first thing, yeah, do not feel overwhelmed by software. This is only pencil, right? And just in the end of the day, what you see, like every frame is a painting. Like this is the really the most important thing. Like
Yeah.
what is there in graph editor, this is easy. You can like really, this is it's for later. This is one thing. Second thing, I think like game industry and film industry, this is what I love right now. Both this industries are kind of start like they are already doing it for so many years, but right now there's no border between. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they are
They're merging.
overlapping so much. They're merging.
Hmm.
I see people jumping back and forth, and it's
Yeah.
awesome. I love this. So again, like I think do not feel worried. I think be picky. Yeah, like think about yourself and like what kind of style you like, what you want to tell with your art. Like because of course, if you want to do Pixar stuff, I'm a huge fan. Yeah, you see, like I'm tattooed with Pixar things right now. So here, yeah,
That's
but
exactly right.
but yeah, but if you want to do Pixar stuff, like of course, your portfolio won't be that appealing for a recruiter or let's say a lead at CD Projekt Red or some other companies that are doing realistic things, right?
Hmm.
And it works opposite way. So pick the company, try to tailor down your reel, like when it comes, like to the studio that you want to be part of in the future. And the third thing, in my opinion, do not limit yourself. Yeah, like do not think about yourself that, oh my god, I hope that at some point I be a lead. Life is all about evolution and adaptation. Yeah,
Yeah.
like this is all about. And do not limit yourself. I mean, you will be a junior first, then and you will be humble. And then I tell every single junior I talk to, it's like please do not lose that. Yeah, because I've seen so many seniors that
Oh,
get ego
100%.
and oh my,
100%.
and they are losing so much. Yeah, I'm telling
Yeah.
these juniors like never lose it, right? Please just keep it, be
Completely.
humble. Yeah, like so one of my rules is that always keep one junior in the team,
That's
always,
great.
because that makes seniors all the time look behind. You know what I mean? This is good.
Yeah.
This is good. Do they feel the breath on their neck, right?
Completely. Completely.
It is healthy. It is healthy. It makes them
Hmm.
feel they need to adapt. And I think this is something that at some point again you'll be junior, specialist, senior, expert, lead. You'll be an animation director
Hmm.
because like why not? Why not? Like
Completely.
you will be, right? Like that's the resilience. Yeah, there's no other option, guys. Right? This is the only you setting up the goals, and you going to be the biggest obstacle for yourself, no
That's
anyone
it.
else. Like because the only person that you can control is you. You cannot control anybody else than yourself. Yeah, so that set your goals high, and then as soon as you get the goal, after a couple of years, you realize that it's not good enough, and you're still hungry, and
Hmm.
and just be hungry, right? Like go and again evolution, adapt. Do not attach to the position. Just progress all the
That's
time.
great.
Progression, like this is the
Yeah.
only, maybe, and this is the only way. Like I don't see the other option. We have to progress to, it's not even for, it's healthy.
Yeah.
It's simply healthy.
Completely.
Yeah, and
Completely.
just do not lie yourself that at some point you'll be elite for 40 years till they retire. It's bullshit. Yeah, especially in this industry which is changing so much. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Changes all the time. That is
yeah.
brilliant, brilliant advice, Seb. Brilliant advice. So
Thank you.
to build on top of that, like how how do you feel that animation has helped you to be a creative director at this point, right? Because I'm pretty sure your journey naturally led to that, right? But what do you think do you take from animation that allowed you to get to that position, right?
Super good question. What is great about animation, like animation in general, is the best,
It is the
but
best.
it's a passion, absolute passion. But in
Yeah.
the end of the day, in a game process, in games like that, like literally the animation is in the middle of the chain. It's just middle of the chain. For one of guys, we are clients. For another, we serves. Like, look at gameplay. Yeah, we kind of order sometimes. Concepts, models. We check that, but at some point, we serve to designers. Yeah, like we have to understand that user experience, player experience, like all that. Okay, when it comes to the compromise, in most of the cases, design wins, because this is how it is. We do games, and one of the most important rules in the game development is that that's cool that you learn concept, that you learn illustration, that you learn rigging. In the end of the day, we all are game developers, and this is the first thing. Like, to be honest, some people forget about that. And this is when communication starts sucking. This is it. That's the place. Yeah, we are game developers. We do games. It needs to the design, and finally the player is going to tell you if it's good or bad.
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
It doesn't have to be an expert, but I swear to God, like, my granny can tell you if that work cycle, whatever, is bad. Just
Exactly.
the
Yeah, you don't have
gut
to be
feeling.
an expert. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So let's say when you are trying to have a headshot, and after one shot your head is bumping, and you say, it's bumping like this. Animator said, it's bumping like this because there's no repetition. A designer tell you, hey, but I need at least, to keep the head at the spot, because the player wants to have a reward after first headshot. He wants to get this guy down. Yeah. Okay, I understand. So you see that that's this kind of compromises. There's tons of these compromises in the production. So coming back to the question, is because animation is in the middle of the process, and you have to start learning rigging, tech, because you talk a lot to programmers, anim coders, engine, like AI, all these guys. You talk to design, you have to start thinking like designers. You have to start, like, you want to have a scene, you want to make a scene appealing. You know that the positioning and staging is all about lighting too, right? About silhouette, about, like, small things on the model that you can push here and there. So it's a really in the middle of the chain. And that's why, after years, like, spending in the development, I was like trying, like, I was learning many things. And right now, like, to be honest, the most of the time, free time I'm having, and I love to learn. This is one of my hobbies, right? Just learning. And it's simply I'm learning, story writing. Yeah, I'm learning this kind of stuff right now, just to make sure that I understand what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, keeping yourself in your toes, kind of like just making sure that you keep your mind open, learning new things.
Exactly.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
but I
Like this
couldn't.
kind of grow mindset, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Grow mindset is something that I really adore. Yeah. You do not focus on goal, you focus on effort. Yeah.
Exactly. Completely.
If you really enjoy effort, like, the sweat, this is the most important, because that takes the most amount of time. Goal, it's just, it's just 5 minutes in the end, right? It's just finished. Yeah, like, it's okay, I achieved.
That's it.
So effort. If you like
one
effort,
brick at a time, right?
exactly. Yeah.
Just keep on stacking them. No, but I couldn't agree more, man. Like it's like animation. I have learned through the years exactly. The more you learn about development, and I go on about this in my videos as well. But like the more you learn about game development, and especially in the beginning, is normally like what comes before and after, just to make you a
Yeah.
better animator. I'm a gameplay
Hmm.
animator specifically.
Yeah.
But as you develop over the years, you start learning more and more about audio, which are like right at the end of the pipe, right? And you
Yeah.
actually like sometimes they come back to you and be like, can you make this
Hmm.
animation a little bit more punchy for this way, or
Hmm.
less punchy, or faster, or slower? And
Absolutely.
and then you start to understand what they mean when they say these things, right? Why do they need
Yeah.
these things depending on the game genre that you're working on?
Exactly.
So it becomes fascinating in itself, because as an animator yourself, you never learn everything about animation. But I think we are all humans, and at some point we want to look outside of animation and learn other things. And
Yeah.
because you have all these talented people surrounding you, you just want to
Yeah.
learn from them and why they're passionate about
Exactly.
certain things. Because
Yeah.
one thing that you see, and you probably can tell this as well, Seb, is that when you work in a AAA studio, everybody is as passionate as we are about animation, right?
Yeah.
Everybody that is here watching this video that is super passionate about animation, everyone feels the same way about
Yeah.
design, art,
Yeah.
audio, whatever it is, right? So
Yeah.
to me, I always find it fascinating to ask somebody else about, why do you find this so interesting? Explain to
Hmm.
me, how do you do
Yeah.
certain things? How do you got this
Yeah.
noise to be so punchy, or all that stuff? Like
Hmm.
I remember at Dice, we had this guy explaining to us how they actually made, I think it was the noise of a Jedi, of a Jedi saber or something like that. And they
Hmm.
were talking about the fact that they use cables from a bridge, those cables that
Hmm.
exist in a bridge, and they would
Hmm.
actually, like, specifically a specific bridge, and they would actually pass like a certain element on top of that cable, and that would create the sound that they were looking for, and then they will like tweak it and pitch it and all that
Hmm.
stuff, and then
Hmm.
you'll get that sound. And that to me is mind blowing. And
Yeah.
even though it has nothing to do with animation, I was inspired for days. I was like, now I'm gonna animate like
Yeah.
Jedi's so much more hype than I was before.
Man, I love this. Like this is there's nothing more like I would say stronger than this. Like when you talk with so many passionate people, artists,
Mm,
developers, designers, and you get in the conversation,
yeah,
at some point you are getting to the really like core of the subject, which is
yeah,
like in most of the cases it's a real context, it's a
mhm,
real why. Yeah, it's
yeah,
like when it's like peeling the onion, like you finally when you peel it you get like everything starts from the why,
yeah,
everything starts from the context. And like when you're saying that this story about these cables under the bridge and stuff, I
mhm,
would say this is this purely core. Yeah, this is
yeah,
why and context. Yeah, it's not it's
exactly.
it's not out of like nowhere. It was special. It was on purpose. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And this is what I love, right? The most in
Yeah.
this process.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah, and it is the beauty. It is the beauty of game development as well, right? Because you have to collaborate so tightly with other people
Yeah.
that even
Yeah.
if you actually come into the industry as a loner, as in like, I want to do
Yeah.
the best animations only and don't bother me because this is all
Yeah.
I want to do. Eventually, if you want to become a good game developer, you need to
Yeah.
start talking with other people and get to know what they
Oh,
do and how can you be of service to them, right?
no other
So
option. Yeah, like having this open mind, like sharing the perspectives, it's so valuable. Like you know to be honest, I don't even recall one example. Like you can have a great idea about stuff, but all the other guys there, all the other obsessed with art, illustration, design, tech,
yeah.
and stuff, as soon as they'll understand your idea and they will feel the idea, they will only elevate that idea.
Completely. I couldn't agree more
Yeah,
about that. A
yeah,
hundred
like
percent.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
And,
this is the yeah.
and here's something, I don't, you probably found this as well, but here's something that is interesting that maybe the people out there don't know. Animation in games is one of those departments that gets other departments hype about what the game has the potential to be, right? Doesn't
Hmm.
matter
Yeah, yeah.
what it is, especially in the beginning as you're prototyping things. Like if you're working on, let's just continue on the Jedi thing. If you're working on a Jedi game, if you showcase this is going to be the combat system that we have in mind. And it can be something that is completely outlandish that perhaps never gets made into game. But if it looks cool, people will start connecting the dots and being like, man, the audio for this is going to be fucking awesome. And like, this thing is going to be amazing. And things start clicking for everybody, even designers as well, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because we tend to see things in motion, right?
Exactly.
Like this is the way how our eye, like we are not tending to see static things. Like of course you can look at the picture and it can inspire you, but then if you start moving it, it will really move you from the inside. That's why it's in game development. It's not just a simple cliche quote that like prototype early, prototype fast, or like it is not only about checking the design, but it's also a great tool for brainstorm, great tool for developing the idea and being more creative and pull that strings here and there. Like this is all about that. It's not only system, it's not only checking design, it's not only that.
Agree. And we have the luxury of, which is something that design doesn't have most of the time, but we have the luxury of showcasing our ideas exactly as we envision them as well. Because a lot of the times, and I've been in places that people just talk about what they want to do, or they send emails, or they create design docs, animation design docs about what they want to do. But a lot of the times when you get a no, or your design gets revoked, or this is never going to work, sometimes it doesn't really translate to what you had in your mind. But if you do an animation exemplifying exactly how the systems are going to work and how you see it working in game, then you just basically have a piece of ammunition that you can be like, this is what I envision, and now let me explain to you how it would fit with our game. And that is much more powerful than just words, I feel.
Absolutely. Like, especially that, paper, as it says, like paper will swallow anything you drop. Anything you throw to the paper will just simply takes it, So like a paper design is cool, but it's the design that expires so quickly. So it's all about change. Like, we players do not play papers. It's not right?
Exactly. You have to actually have a feel, and games are all about feel. So animation gives you that feel that you need in the game, right? So
totally.
It's really cool. So Seb,
absolutely.
Having lots of fun, man. Look, it's been 42 minutes that we've been talking, even though it feels like 10 minutes.
It's kind of slice, man.
Man. Let me just get some of the questions, because there's been plenty of questions here, but the guys,
absolutely,
just start getting some of the questions out of the way, because people have been watching this with a lot of attention.
Cool.
So, let me see. Yeah, that's true. So Chromosome, by the way, welcome Chromosome. He's always here and super helpful guy. He mentions, when we're talking about the seamless transition that you mentioned, is the most satisfying thing in modern video game animation. Kudos to you guys for actually making it into a huge game like Cyberpunk. Because
and it was also, I'm really glad you're saying that, Chromosome. And I also believe it is super satisfying. I must admit that it's also super painful. It was super painful to make it happen. It was probably, from the design perspective, the most painful thing I've encountered in all my career so far. It was tough. It was super tough.
I can imagine. Like we had, I had here an animator that worked in God of War, and he was talking about hitting the exact poses at exactly the same time in order to do it. And so in gameplay, maybe people don't know this, but in gameplay, sometimes you get away with it with a little bit of a slide or pop. But I guess when you're actually going from gameplay to cinematic back to the gameplay, you really cannot have any pops, otherwise everything just falls flat, right?
Exactly. The amount of pops we had, man, on AI or code, like in poses, on the on curves, on the NPCs that are following on the path, on facial, on lighting, like it was countless. But it was a huge effort to make to make it work that way.
Amazing. Here's another one from Chromosome. He asks, how do you plan for in-game cinematics? Do you previs, layout in-game first? Are you recording the mocap with a camera angle in mind?
It all actually depends. As I've mentioned before, we had like this kind of 5 tiers of the kind of scene design, and of course the scenes were followed by animation. So like the simple scenes that, let's say, were performed on the gameplay, we were it was pretty easy, right? Just was like kind of setting up the scene, using the animation library for poses, for animations, idols, etc. But for the big scenes, I don't know, I can recall for now, let's say, sorry for spoilers, guys, right? In the end of prologue, when Saburo is getting killed, like this was one of the scenes that was for sure prevised first. Yeah, we previs it, then we drafted, and then we were like simply following, I would say, more or less this filmic pipeline. Yeah. So yeah, some of the scenes were simply followed that way. Yeah.
Exactly. It depends on what kind of cinematics you were doing, right?
What kind of cinematic, what kind of complexity, like how much player has a freedom in particular moment. But the broader, the bigger we went, the more complex the process was, long story short, right? So in this biggest, most impactful scenes, we're following the previous pipeline.
Perfect. Another question for the code 666.
I know this dude.
Oh, you know this dude?
From Twitter. Yeah. Hey, man.
Welcome. I think it's the first time that he comes to the interview. That's awesome.
Hey,
so what would you say is better in terms of software when we're talking about software? Learning one software really in depth, or have the basic knowledge in multiple softwares?
Actually, it depends on what's your specialty. Yeah? Because when it comes to animation, I don't know if Maciej Pietrasco, our lead cinematic animator, who maybe is watching us right now, he always has a laugh that he was telling me many times that I'm this kind of brute force animator. I'm an old school guy, yeah. So for me, because I've started in Biped in 3ds Max, I've never cared about Gravitator, right? So I was doing straightforward. I was like spreading this on the timeline, filling it. Exactly. Right. Then I was filling up the gaps with proper in-betweens, etc., etc.
Awesome.
So for me, the only thing that I need, it was S button to set a key, and next key,
forward and
previous
back.
Key.
Right.
Exactly. That's it.
Yeah.
So when I was, let's say, getting motion beat and stuff, it was 15-20 minutes to really get into the software, and I was able to animate. Right now it's different because there are many plugins. I don't like plugins. I even unconsciously, I do not use the plugins. So for example, when they tell me, man, but at least use Twin Machine in Maya, I was like, why? I have a middle mouse. Yeah, I have a middle mouse button.
I like your style. I like your style, and I understand it completely because I was the same. I'm the same. I fight against it. I fight against that feeling sometimes. But you really don't need it in order to animate. You really don't need it.
I maybe this. Maybe I'm weird, right? But
no. Like, it makes sense.
It's
like I didn't have Twin Machine when I started. Like I was like, it came after,
exactly,
and it was the first plugin that came out that everybody was like, wow, I can see this working. This is interesting. But before then, it was years of you just actually having to set every key and all that stuff. Yeah.
Exactly, man. When you're giving me plugins like that, I feel that you are giving me steaks. That or some good food that I am not able to eat every day. So I prefer my bread and water. You know what I mean? I prefer my bread and water because this is at least something that I can have every day. And
well, now that you say that, I actually say Twin Machine is actually a software that I use as an example to a lot of animators when they actually ask about favorite plugins, what do you use, Animbot, all these other things. Because it's funny though, because the people that actually started before the Twin Machine time, right? You actually kind of like, it was wired into you that every single pose, every single key, you need to craft it, right? And if you want to do it in between, that needs to be crafted as well, right? Even whatever happens in the middle needs to actually have some kind of appeal, favor one side or the other. You always have to think about it. Twin Machine was the first piece of software that I saw the benefits and the negatives of it, because all of a sudden people were setting their basic poses, and then they were going in between and go like half,
Middle.
more or less, left, half. And I was like, but you're not crafting anything then. Like, you're not thinking about your animation at that point.
I don't know if you remember, at some point before Twin Machine, there was, I would say, this kind of fashion of using dope sheet in Maya.
Dope sheet. I remember dope sheet, man.
Yeah.
Of course.
So exactly, it was exactly the same way. So I remember it was this kind of culture. Set up the scene, set up the sun, and then take your hips, and shift it.
Yeah.
halfway. Exactly. And then and people tell us, brain is lazy. We have to stimulate him. You cannot just go with a brain. You have to beat him. We have to tell him, no way, my friend. No. You're gonna do it my way, right?
Exactly. This is what I tell all my students about the fact that use plugins. Even though I talk about it in my videos, like, try not to use them in the beginning, and then as you get a better animator and you understand how difficult it is to actually do animation and you have a workflow, then implement plugins to help you out a little bit, but only when you know that these things help you and not deteriorate your process, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the question from Decode, I think when it comes to animation, I would say there is like in AAA industry standard, I would say most of the companies use Motion Builder and Maya, or just Maya. Like this is how it is right now. So like if you ask about the animation softs, go Maya, probably right now. Like even Disney is doing Maya, right? So
completely.
Even DreamWorks is doing Maya right now. They just kind of forget about their old softs that they've been developing for years before. This is how it is. I would go with that.
No, completely. If I may add, something that sometimes people forget themselves into this software talk is that software is really not important. It's your skills that are important. So even if you, for example, like Seb, he learned 3D Max, I was with Maya, but at the end of the day, if I were to actually work in a studio that actually works in 3D Max and I've learned Maya, but I show my animation skills, Max is something that you can learn. So what people hire you for is your skills and not how much you know the software, which is something that people sometimes forget.
Man, like one short story. I remember, when we've been like collecting the animators group at 3Time UK, I remember a guy, right now he is a supervisor or even animation director or supervisor at Illumination MacGuff, doing minions.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Pierre Duhamel, cheers dude. Like amazingly talented and animator, like man,
cool,
crazy good. I remember that, man, when he was hired for UK, he got the first. Then he was hired for Disneyland Adventures project. He got Woody. He got Woody for animation. Like that was his first task. And it was like we had to deliver on biped 100 frames a day, finished. 100
That's a lot.
frames polished animations for Disney, for acceptance. And he got Woody. He's never animated 3ds Max before.
See.
Never.
Yeah.
And man, in the end of the day, he showed everyone the walk cycle idle kind of, because he was like walking like from left to right and getting back to the idle pose. And the animation was so good that even, let's say, the animation legends from Pixar, like Bud Lucky or all these guys, Victor Navon, they would say this guy knows how to animate Woody, man. And it was his first animation in 3ds Max ever, and he nailed it to the frame.
Exactly. It's all about keyframes and timing, man. Software is just software.
Timing and spacing,
exactly. As you mentioned, Seb, software is just your pencil. So it really doesn't matter which pencil you get, as long as you can draw, it's all good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen.
We have another question by Chromosome. that asks, what was the inspiration for directing the animation style for both The Witcher and Cyberpunk?
Oh man, it is not one inspiration. You know, we always, to be honest, we always start from the character. Yeah? That's the thing. Yeah, just to make things consistent, makes things and characters appealing, characters that you can relate to. You have to make them like animations needs to follow their personality, the flow, the pace, the moment. And this is the most important. If that's gonna be like, you know, pretty, you know, not achieved, I would say you won't relate to the characters and you'll be disconnected. The immersion won't be there at all. And I think this is the rule. As soon as you have this, then you can think about inspiration. So okay, so first you ask about this particular character, then you can think, I like this choice. Maybe this choice in that movie was pretty good. I think we could follow that. What do you think? Yeah, but this is the way. Yeah,
makes complete sense. Yeah, especially when I'm guessing, especially when it's like a character so inspired by a book that like you have references from before, fan art, things like that, so you can actually take a lot of that stuff from it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like in The Witcher, of course, we have books, right? We know who Witcher is, and there's tons, like hundreds, thousands of fans are around the world. But to be honest, like, you know, like I was kind of laughing, you know, when I've been watching the first season of The Witcher on Netflix. Yeah, like
I need to ask you about that in a second. Go ahead.
Yeah, but you know, I think the first episode, there's a scene that you know, I think there's even so many viral videos about that you know, even the camera cuts were like simply like in a game, like all these American shots, you know, like Henry Cavill says, you know, being in this girl poses from the game. Like it is great because this is the way how we make coherent stuff. And right now we are all like, you know, we are all getting inspiration. Like everything is remix, you know what I mean?
100%.
Like
Nothing is original.
Everything, exactly. Like this is all about creativity, right? Like you take something, you elevate it, or you mix it with this. It's an alchemy. You know what I mean?
Completely. Yeah. You kind of like get different things together and make something new. 100%, man. 100%. There's one here as well by Digital Keyframe. Welcome to the channel. Do you enjoy being an animation mentor and animate? How do you feel as introducing young artists to the world of animation?
Man, I've enjoyed that so much, man. I really love teaching, you know, and you know, it is great when at some point you see animators that you know, your paths kind of crossed at some point, and you see them already working and doing their own shots or let's say game animes, you know. Before I animate, there was here in Warsaw a 6 months course of the game of not even game development, but just a process of creative process in 3D. In movies and games, you could translate it. But you know, it was my, I would say, first experience with teaching, and then I moved to I animate. I had tons of fun. The problem is that at some point I didn't have time to like, hey, Richard Arroyo, yeah, they do. Ricky's like in charge of the IMA games.
Exactly.
We've been
cool guy,
talking so many, cool guy, man, amazing. Yeah. And we've been talking so many times about like getting back to, like I was about to get back, but you know, like 3 or 4 times. But you know, the process of Cyberpunk and generally, you know, life. It is,
man.
I simply do not like make things half baked. You know what I mean? Like it needs to be like full dedication. Like if I, let's say, go and teach, I want to make sure that the students will be able to ask me anytime, right?
Yeah.
If I because if I won't have time to really, give them answers, I will just feel bad.
Yeah, of course.
Because
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah, otherwise ends up being not so much about them, but about you, right? And you need to be there for them.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. This is all about them.
Makes complete sense. Makes complete
Yeah.
sense. Yeah. I'm pretty sure there must be a lot of animators out there that actually started in gameplay because of you. I'm pretty sure.
Who
No, that's
knows?
no, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. So like I think we can actually talk a little bit because we've been talking for an hour. So I know that it's like 11 o'clock at like local to you, right? 11
Yeah,
p.m.
don't worry.
So I want to talk about your Promised Land Art Festival, which I think more
Hmm.
people should know about. So I'm just going to share here this 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 stuff that you have right here. Really cool website, I have to say, by the way. So maybe you can
Thanks.
tell everybody about what is Promised Land and what do you have to deal with it?
Oh man, it was my idea with Pavel Mielnichuk. Pavel Mielnichuk is one of the most like the art directors in our company.
Mhm.
Cheers, dude. He's simply amazing, and
Yeah.
we like really like events. And I remember, I was giving a talk, I think 2015, on THU. Yeah, Trojan Horse was a unicorn. I don't know if you've heard about that event.
No, I don't
Is
think so.
is intro is pretty. I think it's top three events right now when it comes to creativity, like art,
Wow.
animation. It's not game event. It's
Yeah.
more, let's say, broader, right?
Hmm.
It's happening in Troja in Portugal.
Oh, I
And I
see.
remember yeah, I came back from this event. I was done. I was like, my God,
This is
I,
amazing.
I man, this was such an amazing experience.
Yeah.
I thought I had a talk with Pablo. Said Pablo likes this kind of events too. I was like, Pablo, we have to do something like that in Poland.
Mm.
People need that. We have so many artists. When we'll do it in Poland, it will be way easier for them to get the ticket, get the mentor closer to them, ask
Hmm.
and stuff. And it happened that we have a super cool board here at CDP.
Yeah.
The board here, these guys are super open. They are really they really like to share. They really like to do some things for community.
Hmm.
So we simply with Pavel, we've met with them, and we pitched the idea. I was like, hey, we have an idea about event. What do you think? And like they were like, yeah, let's do this. And it finally, because it was such a cool energy, it wasn't tough to organize it because we found out that City of Łódź is which is pretty the city itself, they really like events like film events, and they gave us like this EC1 as you see here on the pictures. There's a huge main hall. I think is the biggest in Poland right now, which is super
Okay.
cool. Is a old electro plant that was
Oh,
just
that's why it has like
yeah,
the cool design, right? The like the little towers
exactly,
and stuff.
yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
it was an electro plant at some point, and they made like an event place. Yeah.
That's cool.
And they gave us to us like, hey guys, so you can have it for yourself only for 4 days.
That's
So City
cool.
of Łódź also, they gave us some money. Then, of course, CD Projekt Red like simply, supported it.
Yeah.
It was like like a like a Christmas, for people at Red, because every single artist, animator, artist, designer, like they got a ticket, and like on top of their days of holiday, like 3 days, they could just simply go there and enjoy. You
Oh,
know?
that's great, man. So they give the staff three
Yeah,
days to enjoy the festival for themselves.
exactly.
That is so
Yeah.
cool, man.
So we have all of us have contacts. So So Harvey, expect the ticket. Expect the
Well,
invite, my
if you
friend.
if you invite
Because
me, I'll be there, man. I'll be there for sure
you're
because this
invited.
looks
You're already invited, my friend. It's
100%.
official.
Yeah,
We make it
amazing.
official on YouTube right now. You're
Yeah,
invited
exactly. You
now.
guys heard it here first.
You're invited.
No, because
So
this is
that's
my jam
awesome,
as
man.
well. I feel exactly like
Man,
you about these events because I
man.
think you come out of it so inspired by the young talent, people that are still
Mm,
like want to ask you questions and stuff. Doing this over the internet is one thing, but doing it in person, like talking to people, is just completely
yeah.
different.
So man, like we were doing it for in 2016, 17, and 18. We suspended in 19 and
Hmm.
20,
Because
and
of obvious reasons.
because of Cyberpunk, we simply, we had to
Oh, I thought it was
focus.
because of COVID.
No, 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 no.
Right, makes
To be honest,
sense.
because like actually COVID was one of the reasons too, but the biggest reason was Cyberpunk. We had to really focus. Yeah.
Right.
But right now we are talking about like making a dedicated small team to be able to really handle it every single year. So
Amazing.
the idea is to get back to it next year. I hope we'll manage,
Yeah,
but we already kind of we're already talking. Yeah, we already want to really make it happen, and I
that's
hope
great.
that we'll make it happen. Yeah.
That is really cool, man. Yeah, I mean the building looks amazing. The venue looks
Mhm.
cool. Yeah, it looks
We
like it's
invited
like.
Mike Jungbluff was actually he visited this place
Oh,
a
he
couple
did.
of years ago. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Um,
That
and
is
I
cool,
think
man.
so many cool guys around the world.
Yeah,
And
they come to one place, right?
yeah,
No,
yeah,
this is amazing.
and man, I think people really it was great. It was great. I know that I don't. It's not humble if I'm gonna tell you that it was great because this is our event,
No,
but
no,
I
no.
think like
It's
there's
great, man.
so much good positive feedback from around the world. Like people really enjoyed that. It was such a good energy,
Yeah.
and vibe that man I
No.
can't wait to get back to it.
To do it again. Yeah, because it's been now a few
Yeah,
years now, so I can
yeah,
imagine that next time it happens, because it's been a few years that it hasn't happened, it's going to be a big
yeah.
event, right?
Oh, it's gonna be huge. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
No,
Mhm,
that's really cool, man, and super glad that you're actually involved in this kind of situation because
mhm.
it's helpful for all animators because there's nothing better for aspiring animators than to network, right? To get out
Absolutely.
there and like, especially if you
Yeah,
can visit a new country like Poland, like not only you
yeah,
actually get to go on holiday somewhere nice, but then you get to actually network with some nice people as well.
yeah. Absolutely. And
Yeah,
Łódź is pretty special. Yeah, the city is pretty special.
is it?
It's something that yeah, it's amazing and strange at the same time.
That's cool,
So
man. That's
yeah.
cool. Yeah, no, it's really cool. Like somebody already mentioned about the Gamescom vlog. They already want me to actually kind of like um Oh,
Hey,
hey, we are back. Can you guys see us okay?
I don't know what happened, but
It was my connection. My connection actually just went
it,
offline in the worst time. Sorry about that, guys.
no worries. I actually, to be honest, I thought that it's my connection because it happens to me sometimes.
Yeah,
But
but see, sometimes, yeah. It's just like,
yeah,
you know what?
but
One of the things that I miss about Sweden the most is internet because it's super sturdy and it's amazing. Here in the UK, as you know, probably as well,
I
Seb,
know, I know, I know.
not so good, not so good.
It's not so good. And you probably, I think you live in Edinburgh, right?
I live in Edinburgh right now, yes,
Yeah.
which is
Which is even worse, right?
well, yeah, exactly. It's like it's worse all over the UK. So yeah,
It's
it's
a
just.
beautiful place, actually. I really like Edinburgh. I was there
Oh, you
twice.
visited already?
Yeah. It's an
Yeah.
amazing place. Yeah.
Oh, it's great. It's great. We bought a house recently because of that.
Oh,
Because we love
yeah.
the city and we decided to kind of like settle here for a while because it's just
Mm,
amazing.
it is.
Uh,
It's a great place.
exactly. Talking about this, about great places, Digital Keyframe attended Promised Land, and he said that it was an amazing event.
So you're there. That's cool.
Exactly.
Awesome. See you there
But
then.
exactly. See you next time.
Yeah.
And Seb, look, it's been an hour and 11 minutes, and I don't want to take too much of your time because I feel quite
No
guilty
worries.
already. I don't want to.
No, no.
It's tomorrow is a work day, right, for you?
Yeah, but man, it's
Yeah,
fine.
it's fine.
Wake up. Do a workout, and then take
And
care of my
then
kid,
back
and
to
then work.
usual.
Yeah.
That sounds like my day, man. Sounds like my day.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, man. It's been
Yeah.
really,
Thank
really
you.
cool. It's a long
Really fun.
overdue. Yeah, we've been talking over Twitter and every now and
Yeah.
then and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So glad to have you over. Hopefully, if
Thank you,
that's
man.
okay with you, we can actually do something like this in the future at some point.
Absolutely, man.
If you're up for
Absolutely.
it.
Always.
I know you're a busy
Always.
guy.
Totally. Yeah, man. But I can always find time to talk to you, man. And
Thanks,
you
man.
know,
I appreciate it. I
I,
appreciate it. And yeah, like to everybody that like showed up for the questions, you guys are awesome. Thanks so much for the awesome questions. This is, as always, going to be available for everybody to watch after the fact, so you can watch it in your own leisure. But for now, Seb is off creating things at CDPR and creating more awesome stuff. So thanks a lot, Seb.
thanks.
Appreciate it, man.
Thanks a lot, Harvey, for having me,
No
and
problem.
thanks everyone for listening. And yeah, see you around.
Yeah, see you around.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.